Hello, everyone, and welcome to our information webinar on the top private schools in the San Francisco area. I do notice that we still have a few people still trickling in as it just started at 7 p.m. So while people trickle in, I am going to start with this brief introduction before we get started. So my name is Kate Postelnik. And I currently work at Think Academy. So one of the things that we've been working on at Think Academy, besides providing students in K through 8 with supplemental math classes for advancement, mastery, and even competition math, is doing research on private schools and also public schools in the Bay Area. So we've been gathering information over the last, there's a lot of people joining, wow. We've been gathering information over the last couple years for any kind of private school or public school in the Bay Area through talking with schools and through also talking with parents and students about how they like the schools, what they like about it, what they dislike, and also doing research on our own through databases and seeing what we can find, and we make these webinars possible. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and I hope that the information that we have provided for you in this webinar coming up will be very helpful for you. Just a little information, this presentation should last about 35 to 40 minutes, and then afterwards we will have a Q&A session at the end. However, if you have any questions, just feel free to drop it in the chat box and we'll get to it at the end. So yeah, lastly, if you hadn't seen already, we do have a Bay Area private and public school Facebook group that covers academic statistics, key characteristics, and more in our Facebook group. You just got to scan the QR code below to join. If you didn't get a chance before this webinar, that's okay. The QR code will also be up during the webinar, or at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. So yes, thank you all for coming again. And I think we should get started to our first slide. So kind of how this webinar is going to work is that we're going to introduce each school individually and cover a brief introduction on some basic facts about the school, and then key characteristics about each school, and then one specific slide on an aspect that makes them different from the others. And then afterwards, there will be feedback from parents for each school, just some quotes that we've been able to find or parents that we've talked to. And then lastly, after we're done covering every school specifically, we will have a couple slides, about 8 slides for statistical comparisons that will cover each school side by side, and you can see where they stand in different academic categories, just give you a better idea based on which academic categories you most prefer, and you can look into which schools are stronger at that than others. And then obviously our Q&A session at the end. So yes, for our next slide, we'll talk about the exact schools that we are covering today. There are 5: Lick-Wilmerding High School, the Bay School of San Francisco, Urban School, San Francisco University High School, and finally Convent and Stuart Hall. There's obviously a lot of high schools in the San Francisco area, private high schools specifically, so we can't cover all of them today. However, these are the 5 that had the most feedback from parents and want to cover them, so we decided to pick these schools. However, if there's any private school or public school in the Bay Area that you would like us to talk about and do a presentation on in future presentations, we can definitely do that if there is enough support for that. So yes, please leave your recommendations as well after the webinar via the Facebook group, email, whatever is most comfortable. But yes, let's get into our first school now. So our first school here is Lick-Wilmerding High School. And so a brief introduction about Lick-Wilmerding is that a characteristic that we'll get into in a couple minutes is that all 9th and 10th grade students take what they call body-mind education courses. We'll get into that in a couple minutes, but going through their brief introduction, the location of the school is in Ingleside near the City College of San Francisco, and their teacher to student ratio is 1 to 8. As well, 79% of teachers hold advanced degrees, which is a master's degree or higher. And then some information on their admission numbers. Their main grade entrance is 9th grade. Obviously, it's a school that is 9th through 12th grade. In fact, all the schools we're covering today, besides the last one, Convent Stuart Hall, is 9th through 12th grade. But they get they accept about 140 students every year into their 9th grade program out of about 850 to 950 applicants, depending on the year, which brings it to an admission percentage at about 14 to 16%. They also have 550 total students. And then for their tuition, this one is interesting. We'll get more into this into the next slide, but their tuition is listed at $52,700. However, they are the only school that gives us exact numbers for financial aid and their flex tuition. And they claim their average flex tuition is $15,900 for all grades. And then lastly, for the UC admission rates for 2019 and 2020, this is for UC Berkeley and UCLA. When you look at it down below here, for UC Berkeley, the admission rate in 2019 was 15.94%, and then it actually jumped up about a percentage to a little over 17%, which is very impressive because usually because of the pandemic, most schools saw their UC Berkeley and UCLA, especially UC Berkeley admission rates dropped from 2019 to 2020, so it went up, which is very nice to see. And then the UCLA rates also went up by a little bit from 14.67% to a little bit over 17% as well. So that's a little bit of a brief introduction on Lick, but we'll get into some key characteristics here. So for some key characteristics on Lick, like we talked about, they have flexible tuition rates. These are the numbers that they provided us for breaking down each kind of income bracket. So for parents who are combined income of $0 to $125,000, the average tuition is about $8,400 based off the students who are attending the school. This is the numbers that they pulled. And then when you look at it for higher brackets for 126,000 to 200,000, the average is 11,400, 201,000 to 300,000, it's 18,500. And then for the highest bracket, which is 301,000 and up, the average tuition is $27,850. So based off these numbers that they've given us, they say that even if you are in the higher income bracket, if you apply for financial aid, if you are a special circumstance, they can lower your tuition, as the average for the highest bracket is still $27,850. But if you don't apply for any financial aid or you don't qualify for any, then it is at the $52,700, as we said in the previous slide. For the other key characteristics, they are very heavily focused on providing a variety of English honors courses. They have 13 in total. And then for their AP courses, they actually don't offer any. A lot of the private schools in SF don't offer AP courses. So if they do, we'll tell you. If they don't, then we'll say what they have instead, which is their PPP courses, or they call their honors courses. So they do offer those instead, which are kind of equivalent to AP courses, but they're not labeled as AP courses. They have slightly different curriculum based off the school's needs and what they feel is the best fit for the students. And then lastly, they do have many kind of programs, like a mentor program for students to help with their academics. And then they also have family networks and inclusion picnics for new families who are trying to get into the school and make connections and feel more at home. They have opportunities for families to meet and all of that. And then they also have a lot of student-led conference opportunities where students can create a topic and an idea by themselves, and they have their own conference, which is great for leadership skills. But that is it for some of the characteristics, but we'll get into one specific key characteristic, which is their body-mind education courses. So essentially what these are is they replace the traditional physical education courses, and all 9th and 10th grade students take it. It's a 3-semester program. And so for the first semester, students can either take yoga or climbing, whichever one they choose. And then they take a health and wellness class during their second semester. And then their third and final semester, so the first semester of their sophomore year, they take a human sexuality class. And so the overall goal of these body-mind education classes is to teach students positive habits and how to make healthy life choices, because they believe that just standard PE classes where you go in and you exercise and you leave, those don't do enough to leave an impact and teach students how to live a healthy life from a young age, ninth grade. And so they think this is a better fit for students. The structure for the body-mind education courses combine activity-based sessions with also discussion, presentation, journaling, and home exploration. So they also have more written and oral assignments as well, not just the physical fitness activities and the tests. They also have students exploring body-mind education in these ways as well. So that is a key characteristic of Lick, but we will get on to some feedback from parents here that we have. So some feedback from parents. Here is a couple quotes that we had. So the first one says that I came back from a conference at Lick-Wilmerding High and got to tour. I must say I was very impressed. Unfortunately, we live too far away to attend, but would definitely be looking at it more closely if we did. I really like their public purpose program, which fosters a sense of volunteerism and public service. So this person was very impressed with Lick, but they were unfortunately too far away to actually go to the school. And then the second quote here is, my fourth child starts at Lick this year, and I'm confident that he'll experience the same thoughtfulness and compassion that his three siblings did during their time. Each child came away with a greater sense of self, empathy for others, insatiable curiosity, and desire to contribute. And then this final quote here says, we toured 8 public private schools. Each time my son ended up comparing everyone to Lick, from the friendliness of the kids to challenging classes to the fun environment. He loves it. No-cut sports teams means kids can try something new, and we really appreciate the helpful parent association. So this parent was definitely very impressed with their parenting networks and the inclusion picnics that help build more of a network and a more home feeling with the students. So that is it for the first school, which is Lick-Wilmerding, but we will now get into our second school. And so for our second school, it is the Bay School of San Francisco. So one key characteristic that we'll talk about in a few minutes is that they do offer senior signature projects. Their location is in Presidio, which is in the northwest part of San Francisco, right above Golden Gate Park. Their teacher to student ratio is 1:7, and their main grade entrance is 9th. The Bay School did not provide any specific admission numbers, but their main grade entrance is 9th. And they also have 398 total students, with their tuition being $55,950 for all grades. And then when you look at some of the UC admission rates, for UC Berkeley, they did see a significant decrease. For 2019 to 2020, it went from 26% to 16%, so around 10% decrease. And then as well for UCLA, not as significant, but about a 3% decrease from 17% to a little bit under 14%. Now talking about some of the key characteristics of the Bay School, one thing that is in particular for them is that they operate on a 5-1-5-1 academic system. What that is that usually for schools, they will operate in a 2-term semester system where students will take 6 to 8 courses per semester. However, starting in around 2012, the Bay School decided to change to a 5-1-5-1 system, where in the fall term and also the spring term, students take 5 classes. However, in the winter and summer courses, they take these very short 3-week-long, they call them immersive courses, where it's just 3 weeks and they take 1 in the winter, in the summer. And one of the reasons why they do this is because they believe that having the students have at least 1 course in a term, even if it's a short one, it will have them more of a well-rounded education and also help prepare them for college more, because in college you can do this where you take courses in the summer as well. Even though they're 3 weeks long, they do give you the same academic credit for a regular course, and it's very condensed in 3 weeks. And from also another characteristic is that from grade 9, most courses are focused on project-based learning. Oh, there's a technical difficulty we are having, but we'll get through this really quickly. Hold on, sorry about this. It says the meeting is going to end in 10 minutes. Yes, there is a little technical difficulty, but for now we will go through the schools. So from grade 9, like I said, most courses are focused on project-based learning, and it also offers interdisciplinary courses that combine 2 subjects into 1 course and is taught by 2 instructors. So this is a way to have students learn courses that kind of complement each other, whether it's science and math, or math and science, or science and engineering, and kind of learn in that way. And then math classes focus on problem explanation through group discussion. And then AP courses are replaced with honors courses. And then lastly, they do have a 3,600 square foot facility for engineering, robotics lab, and art studio. So that is some characteristics about the base school, but we will move on to our next subject, which is the signature senior projects. So it's a required 2-semester long course for 12th graders. And students will, what they do is they conduct field work in a subject that they are passionate in. Students are accompanied by an adult mentor for guidance. And then the field work can be in subjects such as robotics, health and wellness, education, teaching, design, and so forth. And some recent examples are teaching astronomy to middle schoolers, creating a running shoe with interchangeable soles, and redesigning a health clinic to reduce patient anxiety. So these are some senior projects that students worked on, where they did research on it and created on their own with a mentor, and then also give students hand-on experience that surpasses classroom work. The Bay School of San Francisco, some parents' feedback. One quote said, "The Bay School works very hard to curate a thoughtful and inclusive community. The leadership is responsible and willing to listen to input. And then the college admissions support team is A+. It is a wonderful, supportive community. Bay really walks the walk to respect values, although I have reservations about the academics. In the equivalent of Algebra 2 class, my son was revisiting a fair amount of work he had done in middle school and is not significant not seeing significantly new challenges of it." And then the third quote here is, "It is focused on inclusion and real world inspired academics. Immersive programs allow students to go deep on topics by spending weeks in real situations and then addressing real challenges." So that is some good quotes from the base school. There was one that did have some reservations about the academics, but overall the feedback is very positive. And then we are going to now move on to our third school, which is Urban School of San Francisco. And so a brief introduction about Urban School is that it offers specific academic programs that we'll get into in a few minutes. And then the location is in Haight-Ashbury near Golden Gate Park. And then the teacher to student ratio is 1:9. And then the main grade entrance is 9th grade, and around 100 students get in every year, 105 out of 700 applicants, which is around 15% application rate. And then the tuition is $53,000 per year. And then looking at the UC admission rates, for UC Berkeley, it went down about 7% from 17.5 to about 10%. And then UCLA, it went from 9.62% to 14%. So an increase of about 5. And then for some key characteristics of Urban classes they have classes on the block system to prepare students for college. And they have their school also operates in 3 12-week terms, 4 classes per term. So it's essentially like the quarter system at UCLA or UC Davis. And then they also have multidisciplinary courses such as Cal Studies, which explores the economic environment of socio-political implications of a single issue, such as water. And then they also have other courses such as global migration, climate change, mathematics of democracy, rethinking poverty, theater, social change, and community. So this is just a great way to kind of give electives to students if they want to take courses in more niche subjects. And then they also replace AP courses with Urban Advanced Studies or UAS courses that provides AP exam preparation in mathematics, chemistry, world languages, and music theory. And then for their academic programs, they have 2 that are really good in particular. The Urban X Labs is integrated and interdisciplinary courses meant to give students an in-depth education in engineering, design, science, basic fields. Subjects include robotics, electronics, physics, chemistry, architectural, industrial, graphic design, and computer science. And then they also have environmental sustainability, which is hands-on and field work focused on classes with an emphasis on climate change and environment. Subjects include ecology, physical resources, marine biology, environmental history, and economics. And then urban school, some feedback from parents is these 3 here. It says, my 3 daughters attended urban over the last 7 years. They received a superior education from passionate teachers who challenged them at every step. They have been far ahead. They have been far ahead of their classmates in their areas of interest of math, science, and languages. The school's art, music, math, science, writing, foreign language, and college counseling are all exceptional. And then the second quote is, my 2 kids have loved going to school each day. They feel challenged academically and they love their teachers. For the most part, my daughters felt very prepared for Ivy League college. And then this third one here says, the school shares information with parents and they consider changing existing policy, or if there are issues, they engage the parents, have discussion panels, solicit input, and they share the discussions and the rationales. So we'll get into our 4th school here, which is San Francisco University High School. They offer independent study opportunities. We'll get into that in a minute. And they are located in Pacific Heights with their teacher to student ratio at 1:6. And then their main grade entrance is 9th. And they have around 100 people get accepted out of 600 applicants every year. So a percentage of about 17%. And then they have 410 total students with a tuition around 54,000. And then they have, for their UC admission rates, it actually went up by about 5% for UC Berkeley, 18.88 to 23.64. And then for UCLA, it went up from 26.5%, or went down from 26.5% to 14.75. And then for San Francisco University High School, their characteristics, starting in 9th grade, all students are given a mentor. Mentors work with students to review academic progress, set goals, discuss study strategies, and it's just to help them gain confidence in their new school and to succeed academically. And then also through the school year abroad, or the SYA program, students can study overseas and earn graduation credits. They have locations in Beijing, Rennes, France, Vitrobo, Italy, and Zaragoza, Spain. They also offer both honors, advanced topics, and AP courses, 12 AP courses in total. And then 98% of students receive a 3 or higher on AP tests, 85% receive a 4 or higher, and 55% receive a 5. And then for their independent study opportunities, it allows them to pursue/research a topic that they design themselves. Students have a faculty member sponsor and purpose their curriculum to a relevant academic department. And then the student then goes on through that curriculum that they design themselves to verify key milestones with their sponsor. And then at the end of the term, the work is presented publicly at the school's independent study symposium and also at local art festivals and independent publications such as math or literary journals, if it is fit. And then some examples are the graphic design and branding, creating an extended play record, proof-based approach to linear algebra, and data analysis and sports statistics, which are just some examples of the independent study opportunities that students kind of created their curriculum for themselves and did a project through research throughout a semester. And then some parent feedback for the schools. From parents here, it says programs are outstanding. Never seen a school go to greater lengths to create a culture that inspires curiosity and builds strong community. Teaching quality is generally high, but somewhat variable. Teachers are very supportive, and the quality of instruction is best I've ever seen at any school. Very sophisticated faculty, most of them with a PhD degree, and is comparable to schools in America like Phillips Academy or Andover. And this last one says, college readiness is spectacular. Level of homework, testing papers, and activities is difficult, though. Overall, amazing education that prepares everyone for top colleges, but limits social life. And then for their average unweighted GPA, it is 3.58 for Stuart Hall, and then 3.78 for Convent. So yeah, 3.85 for the boy only classes, 3.78 for the girl only classes, and this is just for high school. Like if I had mentioned before, it is the only school that is K through 12 that we're covering today. And then their average weighted GPA, which includes the AP classes, is 3.94 for the boy only classes, and then 4.23 for the girl only classes. And then for their tuition breakdown, it's very simple. K through 8, it's 36,125. And then for high school, it's a simple 49,900. And then looking at some of their UC admission rates, the UC official database didn't have a lot of information on this school in particular. They only had the boy only school for UC Berkeley and UCLA, unfortunately. But for 2019, they had an admission rate of 17.65%, and then not available for 2020. And then for UCLA, that was actually quite an anomaly. There was 47.37% got admitted in 2019, which is a lot. And then it went down to about where all the other schools are, around 13.33% in 2020. It is a smaller sample size since it was a small class, only 19 people applied. So it is a little bit of an anomaly, but those are just some statistics for the UC rates that we wanted to share. So getting into some characteristics about Convent and Stuart Hall is that it separates the school into two sections, as we covered before, Convent for girls, Stuart Hall for boys. They do have some co-ed opportunities for classes, like in our some key characteristics we'll get into in the next slide, but most of the classes are either girl only or boy only. And then they also have experiential education, which invites authors, scientists, artists, and civic business leaders to help students learn through travel, service, and entrepreneurial engagement. So they can have authors come to the school, or they go on field trips to meet authors or scientists. And then they also have like trip opportunities in countries such as Rome, Costa Rica, Mexico, etc. They call them immersion trips. And then lastly, they also offer networking projects where students can network with students in other areas, both domestically in areas such as like Houston, and then also internationally in cities such as Tokyo and Sydney, Australia. And then, like I said, they do offer AP courses, they offer honors as well, and then they have 18 AP courses. And then for one key characteristic that makes their program and their school unique is their International Bachelorette Diploma program, which is their IBDP. And it's a program designed for 11th and 12th graders to help them be more prepared for college. Students who are enrolled in the IBDP program take only IBDP courses, so just discretion there. And the 6 kind of classes that they take over a 2-year period are in subjects such as language arts and literature, language acquisition, which is learning a language such as Spanish, French, Mandarin, etc. And they also have individuals and societies, and then sciences, mathematics, and arts courses. And so the main reason why they have this program is because they believe it helps students prepare more for college. These courses are definitely very in-depth, and the difficulty level is higher, and it helps them kind of gain those kind of good college studying habits. And then for the 3 main components of their International Bachelorette Diploma program, they like to teach students based off creativity, activity, and service. And then they also talk a lot about theory, and a lot of brainstorming, and asking about the why through their theory of knowledge emphasis. And then lastly, they have their extended essay, which at the end of the course, students will all write an extended essay, but that essay is actually going to be graded by international scholars outside of the US. And so one other goal about this program is they want students to think more internationally, not just from the outlook of like someone who lives in the US, but someone who lives outside the country as well. And so they have that essay graded by someone who is an international scholar, and it kind of helps them gain more of a holistic holistic outlook and a more holistic education. So that is for the International Bachelorette Diploma Program, but here's the parent feedback from Convent and Stuart Hall. So these 3 quotes says, "I was impressed by the way the school addresses masculinity head on and encourages the boys to be vulnerable and kind individuals. This is a great school for kids who love sports and thrive in small classes." So this parent was very impressed by the very small teacher to student ratio, as we said, was 1 to 5. And then they also liked that obviously she had a son go to the boy only classes, how they dealt with masculinity, which is definitely a hard subject to touch upon in boy only class. So they did a very good job at handling that issue there. The second quote is, "My daughter loves her school, her teachers, her classmates, and parents and alumni are very involved in the school. Once your daughter enters the school, your family joins an entire group of families that are currently part of it too." And then this last quote is, "Our daughter is a junior and has attended Convent since kindergarten. We love the school and feel like it strikes an excellent balance between high academic achievement, teaching appropriate values to girls, and valuing each child for their individual qualities." So overall, the feedback for the parents that we talked to were very high for Convent and Stuart Hall. But this is it for the individual presentation. So before our question and answer segment, we will go through a couple statistical comparisons, about 8 very quickly here. So we'll get into them right now. So the first comparison is the UC Berkeley admissions. We did cover them each individually, but here they are side by side. As you can tell, Bay School and Urban School did see the biggest decrease, while San Francisco University High School had the biggest increase and has the highest number after 2020 at around 25%. For the UCLA admission, it's a bit of a different story. There was the anomaly with Convent and Stuart Hall, which is why you see the huge drop off there. And then there was also a drop off for San Francisco University High School. And then there was an increase for Urban School and Lick, with Lick having the highest percentage after 2020. Then for the Ivy League numbers, where this one is 2 of the schools, Convent and Stuart Hall, and then the Bay School, did not offer us the exact numbers for Ivy Leagues. They said that students did get into schools such as Harvard or Yale or Dartmouth, but they didn't have specific numbers. But these 3 schools did, and it's over the last 4 years. And so this is the 8 Ivy League schools combined, how many students got into how many got into one of the 8 from each school of the last 4 years. And as you can see, San Francisco University High School did have the most at 75, which is actually impressive considering they did have the lowest number of students at 410. Urban School had 420, while Lick had the most at 550, because you do have to take into consideration the amount of students that are actually at the school. If there's less students, less chance for the numbers to be higher, which is why Urban School has a bit of a dip in comparison to Lick, because there's about 130 student differential. But for SF University High School, that didn't matter. They still had very high numbers despite having 410 students. And then we also did the numbers for Stanford as well, because Stanford is a very popular university among Bay Area students and parents. And then the story is very similar. SF University High School had the most at 15, but Lick was right behind at 14, and then Urban had 6. Now for these next ones, it's ACT scores, which, as you can see, they're all very even, but San Francisco University High School is slightly above at 33, while Convent and Stuart Hall is the lowest at 29. And when you look at here, Lick has 32, so slightly below San Francisco University High School, and then Bay and Urban have 31. Lastly, for the test portion, for the SAT scores, SF University High School was the only one that actually broke 1400 at 1420. Convent and Stuart Hall was the lowest at 1300, and then Lick was right behind SF UHS at 1390, and then Urban School at 1370, while Bay School at 1330. For our national merit semifinalists, according to the official PDF that's released every year that shows all of the national merit semifinalists by each school in California, there was no section for Convent and Stuart Hall, but they did have numbers for these 4 schools in 2021. There was 6 for San Francisco University High School, which was the most out of the 4. Lick had 3, and then Bay and Urban had 1. And then the last comparison statistic is the tuition. We show this here because Lick was the only school, as we said before, to actually show the exact numbers for their flexible tuition through the financial aid. That's why there's the disparity. The flexible tuition, average tuition among students who attend is around 15,900, but their tuition that's listed is 52,000. And then all of the schools are between the 49 to 55,000 range. So that is it for our webinar on the best private schools in the San Francisco area. Thank you all for joining. We're going to get into some Q&As in a second. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. It's never happened before. People have been in these webinars multiple times, and that's never happened. That's very weird. We'll definitely work on that for future webinars. But thank you all for joining back in. But here is the Q&A session. If we can't get to your question, just want to remind everyone that we do have a Bay Area school group called Bay Area Schools and Parents Discussion, where you can receive detailed answers. You just type the question in and to the group, and we'll answer them very promptly. And then we also have one-on-one education consulting for Bay Area schools, whether it's public or private, because we do know that sometimes just a webinar is not enough to gain enough information on a school. And choosing a private school or a public school is definitely a big decision, and we want to make sure you guys have the most information possible to pick the right school for your child. So we do offer free one-on-one consulting through the QR code. It takes us to a Calendly link where it's a 30-minute free session via Zoom. And then lastly, we do have an upcoming webinar on Saturday, February 12th, so about 16 days from now at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 2 hours before this one started. And this one, as we said, Think Academy, we focus on providing students with supplemental K-8 math classes. And for those who are interested in math, we are having a webinar on the NOETIC math competition, which is a math competition for students in grades 2 through 8. It's hosted 2 times a year, but the upcoming one is April 7th to April 21st, and the registration date is March 17th. So Think Academy this year will actually be hosting a NOETIC team. And so the purpose of this webinar is to teach you all about what the NOETIC math competition is, and then show you why Think Academy is a great team to join. It'll be a fun webinar. This competition is great for students who are interested in math as a hobby, who just like to do it for fun, or they want to be one of the best in their class. It's a very great competition. There's awards available, and it's very fun. So we have a webinar in about 16 days to talk about that. So you can scan the QR code to attend that webinar as well. It's free like all of ours, but let's get into some questions if you have any questions. Like I said, feel free to type your question in the chat box if you have one. I don't see any right now. Didn't see any before the meeting cut off, so I think we're good. I'll leave it open for a few more minutes for any questions if anyone has any. Just got a question, says, what is NOETIC? So it's the information webinar will go very in depth about it, but from what my knowledge is, the NOETIC math competition, it's just for students in grades 2 through 8. It's similar to other math competitions that are out there, like Math Kangaroo or AMC8, but this one is very focused towards the mid-elementary school and then the up to middle school. Yeah, and so the webinar that we're having will cover all of the topics from our math experts. I am the academic education consultant. So yes, but it is a webinar, or it is a competition for students in that grade level, and it's hosted twice a year. Thanks, of course, yeah. Okay, and then this question says, now that SAT is optional, will schools with AP courses be better to enter into good colleges? That one is, it's definitely, I would say, AP courses are definitely important for getting into colleges. But I think that it really depends on the student's overall profile, what they have for extracurriculars, what their overall resume is. I do know that there are a lot of colleges, especially ones that if you're applying in the Bay Area, they do recognize that a lot of these private schools have like the replacement AP courses, such as the PPP honors courses or the UAS courses. So that one, the schools do realize that that it is a replacement and that it's very similar to it. It's just the curriculum is different. I would say if you believe, if the school does show that AP courses, the individual school does show that AP courses are important, then I would definitely go towards one that does offer them. I do know that San Francisco University High School has the AP courses offered, and they have had the best Ivy League admission rates compared to the other schools, but that's also for other factors as well, not just AP. But hopefully that's a little bit of an answer to that question. Okay, it looks like there's no more questions and I don't see anyone joining else. So yeah, I will say thank you for attending this webinar. Again, very sorry for the technical difficulties. That will not happen again, just like the other webinars where it's been pretty good. But thank you so much for watching, and hopefully it was very informational and you were able to come back. Hopefully you were able to come back in when it came out. Is there a link to the recording? Yes, we do have a recording. It was recording before and it was recording after. So we will definitely edit the two different clips and put the recording through an email. If you registered via Eventbrite, it will be sent to you via email tomorrow. And then if you're in our Bay Area school and private school discussion group, we'll also have the recording posted there as well. So yes, that's where it will be. So thank you so much. And we will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.